Happy Thursday, everybody. Today is what's called Maundy Thursday. Now, this is not Monday, Thursday. It's written differently. You can see it in the title. What does it come from? It comes from this word mandated or commandment, where Jesus gave a new commandment. Let me read it out to you and then talk a little bit about it. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. A couple of things. This is not in an empty space. Jesus has just washed his disciples' feet. It says in John 13, verse 1, now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, so he had not much time, right? He knew his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And so during supper, when the devil had already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and he had come from God and was going back to God, he rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, he tied it around his waist. He becomes a slave. And not just to the people he could feel positive towards. There's nothing about like feeling warm and fuzzy about everybody. I bet this was not a warm and fuzzy time for Jesus. Judas was about to betray him. He was about to die. He knew that God had laid everything into his hands. So he could have turned around and said no. And that's where he loved his disciples to the end, that he becomes a servant to everyone. Now, Jesus says, if you love one another like I have loved you, that's the commandment. That's the new love that I am installing. Now, this is what changed for me, right? Every time I feel like I struggle to love somebody, love my wife, love my kids, love people in church, love people outside of church, here's what the commandment says. Love like I have loved you. Not love with the feelings or with the resources that you have for that person. Love like I have loved you. And meaning, I am first already loved. I'm loved by God. He gave everything for me. What right do I have to not be kind, to not be serving, to not be loving to that other person? Now, does that mean that I have to stay closely connected with everybody? No. Judas Iscariot left Jesus and Jesus let him leave, right? But he still loved him. And I think even Judas would have had a chance to repent a couple of times until he was dead. Honestly, until he was dead. Because Peter betrayed Jesus later on. And even after the death of Jesus, there was a chance for turning around for Peter. So love never gives up, never fails, doesn't end. That's the love of God that is given for us in Jesus. And because of that, we're mandated to love one another. Sometimes when you don't feel like loving somebody, but you act on the love of God, act like loving somebody with the love of God, that relationship completely changes. And that's for me what changed on Maundy Thursday. Have a blessed afternoon, have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow.